Hi, I'm Kelly Hilton, one of the co-creators of HyperDocs and co-authors of the HyperDoc Handbook. In this video, I'm going to share with you some strategies for supporting student executive functioning skills with HyperDocs. The first thing I want to talk to you about is what is executive functioning and why does it matter? Executive functioning are the skills that we need in order to organize, plan, prioritize, and engage in tasks and in learning. The Harvard Center for Developing the Child explains that executive functioning are skills that underlie the capacity to plan ahead and meet goals, display self-control, follow multiple step directions even when interrupted, and stay focused despite distractions, among others. Why is this important right now? Our students are learning from home right now. How distracting can that be? Instead of being in a classroom that nurtures the consistent environment for learning, everything that could possibly distract them from home right now is right at their fingertips. What a challenging time for our students, for our teachers, and for our parents. Let's talk about some ways that we can fully help students to access content, participate, engage in learning, and really show their understanding through application. The first thing that I want to talk about is what would I do if I were planning instruction right now? I would start with a HyperDoc. But when I design these for my classroom, they look very different than they look right now for my remote learning environment. What does that look like right now? In a remote learning classroom, many teachers are finding different strategies and solutions for sharing out tasks with students. But let me ask you a question. Does your communication with your families right now look like a grocery list of tasks to complete? Or is it a nice, complete, balanced meal, carefully prepared to serve, like a HyperDoc? When students are bombarded with emails and a laundry list of tasks, their motivation is going to go down, or you might find you're not sure where they're at in the process of learning. That's why reimagining your delivery of instruction using a HyperDoc is so important during this time. Here's what I mean. This is a HyperDoc that I taught with some high school students a couple of years ago in a resource class. I believe this HyperDoc could be easily remixed and modified for any middle school classroom teaching history or even upper elementary school. Or you might even just take the design and put your own content into it. Now take a look at the way that I am reimagining it. In the first version of the HyperDoc, students had an explore activity, an explain activity with my direct instruction, and an extension activity. I'm going to have to reimagine this, and when I originally taught this lesson, it took 2 class periods to teach it. I don't have that kind of time with students anymore. This HyperDoc is going to be my whole week of instruction in a remote learning classroom. Here's how. Monday, students are going to explore. Linked to this document is a Google form. All they're going to do is get this one slide from me. And on the slide, it's not going to say explore anymore. I'm going to make a copy of this and change it and tell the students, this is what you do on Monday. In supporting students in developing their executive functioning skills, they need to have routine. They need to have very clear and explicit instructions. And using one slide to manage the entire week, I think it makes it much easier on the teacher, but also on the students. So I'm going to make a copy of this HyperDoc. And what a nice feeling to know that when I'm done remixing this, I have a whole week's worth of planning ready to go to teach my students. So I'm going to call this week 3, or week 1 actually, because this is more of a launch into the topic. Week 1 of Ancient Greece. Instead of explore, I'm going to write over that and show the students that this is what our task is for Monday. So please complete the form. So I might write, complete the Google form. And before that, I'll just put Monday. And I might also include the date. I'm going to fill in that little bubble there just to go over it. I can play with my font, make it larger, and build in my design. I don't have to change the links because they're still there. On Monday, students come to this slide, they click on the document, they fill out the form. Great. On Wednesday, when students come back, I'm going to actually teach from the HyperDoc on Wednesday. This is so that I can maintain my energy level and the balance of teaching in this remote learning environment. I'm going to dedicate only Wednesday for a day that I either create a video to send home to my students, or I will create a synchronous learning environment where we can have a discussion. So Wednesday, I might say log on, and then I would link to a synchronous meeting, or I might say watch this video, and I would link up a video that I made. In the video, students would be given directions. The original HyperDoc lesson had this document linked to it. And now that I'm in my remote learning space, I don't need to change too much about teaching from this document because I'm only going to spend 20 or 30 minutes with my students on Wednesday teaching. And especially if I'm a middle school or high school teacher, this is one of our students' many other classes. So I feel like it's reasonable to check in and teach with them directly on this day. So the first thing I'm going to do in my video or in my teaching is review the responses from what students had said on Monday to the Google form. One way to help students learn to self-monitor their learning and to keep the motivation levels going during this time and just take the distractions away is let the kids know that you're paying attention. You didn't just ask them to fill out a Google form just for nothing. Now you're going to teach from that form. So this spreadsheet is all of their responses. And you know what I would do is I would really look at those responses before I taught from it. And I would choose a few to highlight. And I might choose some exemplars or some that could use some improvement. Or I know my students, I might choose a few who might just need a shout out. And I would find a way to bring them into the conversation by teaching from this form. This is how I would launch into my lesson on Wednesday. This would be a great engagement activity to get everyone going. The next thing that I would do is share with them this slide deck because these slides have the actual reasons or descriptions of the pictures that the students were asked to describe. In teaching this, students would see how their background knowledge played into their responses, but now I'm really leveling up the engagement and starting to teach them the true history of ancient Greece through this direct instruction. The third part of my lesson for Wednesday would be reading together aloud or inviting students to read on their own this very important article. If I read it aloud, I can have some time to stop. It's not very long. I chose a shorter article. We can stop and talk about it in the video or through the synchronous meet. The next thing that I would do, it would be to share this document with students so that anyone can edit. And when everyone responds to the question at the bottom, students can see each other's responses and the conversation can continue. Because I need to remember some of my students will be there with me on Wednesday and some may not yet. So I have to be flexible in my own thinking with that as I support them. The last part of my teaching on that Wednesday would be to teach students what the expectation was for Friday. So as I rebuild my HyperDoc lesson for my remote learning classroom, I'm going to build my Friday lesson here. I'm going to change it to Friday, and I would say explore the thing link, which I will show you what that is in a moment. Now, instead of just explore, I need to ask them to do something with this because I want to know that they're interacting. So I would say, show me what you learned by designing in one of these slides. So in this activity, I would link up a blank Google slide presentation, and students would take one slide and after exploring the thing link, show me what they learned. Another strategy would be linking up a flip grid and inviting students to respond to the flip grid. It depends on what my learning outcome is. But here's from the student-facing view what they would get. Friday, explore the thing link. Okay, where's the thing link? Here's the link. It's all right there. Wait, what am I doing again for this class? I have 5 other classes I'm managing. I have 2 younger siblings that I help out with at home. My parents are struggling because they're trying to work from home and take care of all of us. Our students have been asked to really manage so much right now. So packaging in this way will help them be clear. And so when they get to Friday and they open the thing link, they will see this tool right here. This thing link has many links to other resources about ancient Greece. This example is a video. This example is an article. That part of the article is embedded here, but if they want to read more, they would click read more. One of the things about this type of a tool is that it has a lot of accessibility built into it. Here's some games I'm building in multimedia. In fact, if I wanted to, I can record my voice talking to students as a way to continue to teach them from the thing link. So here's an example of that. The term ancient or archaic Greece refers to the years 700 to 480. So students would hear their teacher talking to them, and then they can read the articles or play the games on that specific topic. Here's the best part. ThingLink has an immersive reader built into it, and when you click on that, you have an opportunity to see the text be read aloud to you and see the cursor go across. You can change text preferences, colors, spacing based on your ability to stay focused and read. You would show students how to utilize this tool to access the content in this way. There's grammar options where you can build in lessons like name all the verbs or name the nouns. So that could be a potential for an add-on lesson. But here's my favorite part. Do you have students from around the world in your classroom? Look at all the languages represented in this tool. So you can quickly translate this into another language, and voila, students now are going to see it in that language. So here we go. Now they're going to hear it. And they can hear it. And all the same accessibility applies. Incredible, right? So from the student-facing point of view, one Google slide, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, clear expectations. Their tasks are easily complete. And for most of your students, this will be enough in helping them navigate their new remote learning space. If you're delivering instruction from a Google Classroom, you have one link that you send out, which is week 1, do this. If it's on a website, same thing. Or you could even email home. So all of that is great. But what happens when students don't complete the form, or they don't watch the video or join the meet, or you don't get any product on Friday? Here's what I would do. And this is why we're talking about executive functioning and supporting those students. I'm truly going to build in Tuesday and Thursday in my work week as 2 days to strategize and support students for that reason. So Tuesday is a teacher work day where I go back and check that Google form from Monday. And any students who did not fill it out, I'm going to send them a little email and check in. How's it going? What's going on? Is there something I can do to support you? I'm going to be really careful with my communication as well. I'm going to present neutrally and supportively because I do not know what's going on with their family. So Tuesday's just to check in. And then if Thursday comes around and I have not heard from those students yet, I would build in another way to communicate and connect with them. I might connect with their families and copy them on that email. And if needed, I'm going to build in an extra support for my students. I'm going to get to the bottom of what their needs are. Do they need to support with developing and setting goals and managing this time and space in remote learning? What I'm sharing here are two different student weekly check-in and goal templates, one in Google Docs and one in Google Slides. Depending on your own preference or the preference of your students, you can make a copy of these documents and modify them for your students. And so after connecting on Tuesday, I might follow up on Thursday and ask the student, what does it look like for you? How can I help you? We might set a SMART goal. If a student has an IEP or a 504 plan with specific goals, I might remind them of those, and together we would draft them in this open space in student-friendly language. Then I would have a conversation with them about what are the classes that they're balancing right now. Tell me about your other classes. What courses are you taking? Who are your teachers? Because you know what? That's my greatest ally, the students' other teachers, and collectively we could support them. And so together, this document would be shared between myself and the student, and maybe the student's parent, depending on if you feel like you need to or not. And then the next part would be really, really important, helping the students link up the digital resources or where to find the assignments from each teacher right here. That way, every week the student knows to come back and they don't have to look all over their digital world. This will help them organize their tasks. The next step would be to set some goals for the following week. And there's some pre-built charts in here. So I could ask the student, well, what were you able to accomplish for your first period class? What were your assignments this week? And once they get them done, they can just fill in done, or they can go ahead and put a little paint bucket in there and just celebrate that they got something done right there. Since I have access to this document, I might check in here and there and give them a little feedback, or I can write a comment to them. I just love this way of communicating because you'll notice that the next table looks blank and it's the same thing. And the next table after that. We just found out yesterday that we're going to be doing this type of learning through the end of the school year. So you might have up to 6, 7, or 8 weeks. And it looks the same in the slides. So here's how this helps a student with executive functioning, developing it. Now they can see their progress. Maybe in the first week, there weren't many assignments filled out. But as the weeks progress, can we monitor their progress? Are they going to perform more when they get feedback from you? You betcha. They're going to thrive off of that. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, it's that this social distancing time that we're in can feel really isolating. So if we could really structure our weeks so that Monday, Wednesday, Friday are content, and Tuesday, Thursday are interventions and connections and social and emotional well-being, and helping students to develop the behaviors that they need to learn in this remote learning environment, I think we're going to find more transferable skills for our students. I think that they're going to just develop the skills that they need to continue to have that self-monitoring of their learning. The last thing that I want to say is that this is very complex work. So these are some suggestions. And if you have some different ways that you prefer to do this, I would love for you to share those in the comments or share those in one of our HyperDoc communities. You can follow HyperDocs at Teachers Give Teachers group on Facebook. It's probably our most popular place to talk about this topic. But if you're a Twitter user, you can follow us at TSGiveTS. Additionally, there's other resources on Pinterest for learning how to design and on YouTube. Either way, we're in this together, and I hope that you found that this shared a few ideas for not only helping you plan and balance your work week, but also help your students develop the executive functioning skills that they need in order to learn in this remote learning environment. Be well and stay healthy. We'll see you soon.